And the last thing I would do is I would try to improvise my own chorus and use this idea where I can. So I'll try to do a combination of the original lick and some variations. So 1, 2, 1. Cool. So, like, it's fine. It's not Wynton Marsalis, but, it's I'm definitely getting the idea into my playing. All right. One of the most common questions I get is, I've transcribed a lick or solo. Now what do I do? How do I retain the ideas and use them naturally? Or maybe it's, I can play the thing along with the recording, but when I start to solo, I don't sound any better. I was thinking about this as I was doing my own homework this weekend, and I thought it might be helpful to demonstrate my approach and what I tell my students. And we're going to look at two aspects of the process, the actual transcribing and the aftermath. In other words, how do I get the material and what do I do once I have it? Now, you may have noticed that this video is long. If you're looking for a quick and easy answer, keep moving, because this is not it. This is a systematic process that I suggest becoming very familiar with if you want to see serious improvement. Now, I realize the title is a bit silly, like how can there be a best way to listen and figure something out? Well, obviously everyone is going to have their opinions, but as an educator and a player, this is my 2 cents on what I think you should do for like maximum improvement or to get the most bang for your buck when you transcribe. Now, to demonstrate this process, I'm going to do it just as I would in my own practice sessions. Every year I go through a big Wynton Marsalis phase, not so much with his modern stuff, but the way he plays traditional music. By the way, don't ask me why that surname is pronounced that way down here, because I don't have an answer for you. Speaking of which, if you can hear the fan in my room, I apologize. It is March in New Orleans, which means it has been summer for 7 years now. So, anyway, I love Wynton's playing because he beautifully toes the line between traditional and modern. It's very rooted in the Louis Armstrong tradition, but it's polished. Yet it's not too polished that it's devoid of the like greasiness, for lack of a better word, that epitomizes street music. It's really beautiful. I also really admire him as a person, artist, whatever. He's had a really big impact on my musicianship. Anyway, generally speaking, trad solos are great to learn because they show us how to make a great solo with few note choices, namely arpeggios and pentatonics. It's a lot of repeated figures over simple progressions. It's a masterclass in the art of playing clear rhythmic statements. It's something I view as highly transferable in that I feel like the stuff I learn is applicable to most styles of music that I play. So we're going to look at the first chorus of Wynton's solo on When the Saints Go Marching In from his 2009 Jazz and Marciac concert. Now, disclaimer number 1. This video is not meant to answer how do I make sense of things, but instead what do I do once I've made sense of things. If you need help understanding what things are after you've transcribed, I would maybe look up some videos on transcribing, jazz theory, etc. Take some lessons and work with a teacher if it's giving you trouble. This video is more about, like I understand the information theoretically, but what do I do with it other than play along with the record? So I'm going to show you how I listen and identify material, but if you're starting from square one here, this might be a little advanced for you right now. And that's okay, you can still get something out of it. I'm just saying I'm not going to explain the why here. I may say, okay, this lick is 1, 3, 5, 6 over the chord, but I'm not going to go into why that is. So just know that you might need to do some theory work if you're confused about some of the content. Disclaimer number 2. There is another half of transcription work that is related to rhythm, swing, time feel, etc. that I hope to make a video on. But for now, we're just going to talk about the melodic and harmonic content, the notes, And finally, as I mentioned before, this is just about learning by ear, not necessarily writing stuff down. You can write it down if it helps you, but it is not a requirement. Okay, so before we dive into the material, there's one really important concept to consider. Everything we transcribe falls somewhere along the scale of prior knowledge and new information. Getting the most out of transcribing is dependent upon this relationship. We are constantly assessing information relative to these categories. Is this something I know? Is this something new? I've seen this idea before, but not in this form. That's cool. I've seen something similar, but not quite like this, so on and so forth. As we transcribe more and more, these goalposts move. Everything we learn helps us make sense of other things that we will eventually learn. So I often start by asking myself, what do I already know about what I'm transcribing? And that could be vocabulary stuff, the form, harmony, etc. This is important for multiple reasons. It can help us figure out phrases that are unclear or hard to hear, and it can help us modify the material when we try to incorporate it into our own playing, a bunch of stuff. We're going to explore this idea more, so keep it in mind. So what do I know about this tune and this music? Well, I know the song. I've played it a million times. I know the melody and I know the harmony. I also know that soloing in this style usually incorporates a lot of arpeggios, particularly triads, sixth chords, certain seventh chords. There are also usually lines using pentatonic sounds and blues ideas. And I also have a general idea of what this music is not relative to something like bebop. I'm not going to find a lot of altered licks, for example, and the lines won't have the same contour or shape as what I usually transcribe. All good stuff to know that will inform me as I go through the process. So I'm going to start by sharing what I tell my students. In my opinion, the absolute best way you can do the actual transcribing is without your instrument. Doing it in your head is the ultimate form of ear training, and that's how I'm going to do it here. Now, especially at the beginning, this is very difficult. For students who are new to this, I ask them to do maybe like 4 bars this way. You need to start actively curating this skill so that it becomes easier. Remember that if you learn this skill, you have it for life. I transcribe whenever I'm in one of life's proverbial waiting rooms, like the airport or on a flight or whatever. With that said, I don't want students to give up because of how hard it is. Any transcription is good transcription, even if you're just searching for the notes on the instrument. But I would encourage you to try to do a little bit this way each time. And hopefully you'll see me demonstrate and say, oh yeah, I'm going to work towards that. It seems much easier, because in the long run it is. Also, to make this as easy as possible on yourself, be able to sing the solo before you start. That way you're not trying to remember how it goes. Because basically what I'm going to do is transcribe the whole thing in my head, map it out on the instrument, and play it. And that's hard to do if you can't remember what it sounds like. And when I say sing it, I don't mean that it has to be pitch perfect or super accurate. It's mostly just about knowing how it goes internally so that you're not forgetting it as you go along. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to sing my chorus. This way you can hear the content we're transcribing as well. So here we go. Alright, cool. So, not super accurate, but it's obvious that I know how it goes, right? Alright, so let's jump in here. Here is the first phrase. Okay, so full disclaimer here for the sake of honesty and transparency. I hear this stuff immediately and know what it is and where it is on my guitar. I'm not going to pretend that I don't. I've been doing this and working towards this goal for a long time, but I will go through it and offer advice and demonstrate the process for those just getting into it, at least for the first phrase or two. So the way I like to do things is by using the root as my center, or hearing things in relation to the root. So for this phrase, I would start by finding and singing my root, and then I would sing the first couple notes. So let me just go to... So my root's here, bum, and then I would sing my first couple notes, da-da-da-da, and I would notice that it's the same 2-note phrase just repeated, da-da, da-da. Now, to me, the first note sounds a little dissonant, and the second note sounds like the place of resolution, so I might figure out the second note first. I would hum, here's my root, da, 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 here's my second note, da, 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 and I would say, okay, that's a major third. And then I would figure out, okay, the note before it is just a half step below, da, 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 da. So that means my first phrase is this typical blues idea, going from flat 3 to flat 3, flat 3 to 3, and then repeat. So upon hearing the next part of that phrase, I would observe that he's going root, some note below, back to the root. Da 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 da, root, below, root. Now, this is a great example of how you just have to brute force it when you aren't too familiar with the options. So in my head, I would start singing what the different options would sound like. So what about the 7? Da 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 da. Okay, that's not it. What about flat 7? Da 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 da. Okay, that's not it. What about the 5th? Da 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 da. Okay, that's not it. What about the 6th? Da 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 da. Okay, cool. It's 1 6 1. Got it. Let's put it together. Da 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 da. Okay, so now that we've got a phrase and identified it theoretically, how do we go about putting it on the instrument? My biggest piece of advice here is to try to see it in the context of a chord shape. So I use caged, as I've mentioned, but you can use whatever system you want. As soon as I have my first lick, I'm already mapping it out on guitar. I literally see it on the frets in my head. 9 10, 9 10 on the B string, 10 7 10 on the G. I'm seeing this in the context of my chord shape, this A shape on fret 8. So now what I'm going to do is put the tab up of what I'm seeing in my head. Again, just demonstrating the process so you can follow along. And I may change this later based on what comes next. So know that we're not locked into this or anything. At this point, I might also play my phrase to double check my work. So sing it da 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 and play it. It matches. Cool. All right, moving on. Okay, so this phrase, I'm going to speed up a little bit now, but hopefully you're seeing how this works. I would immediately hear this as a major pentatonic phrase. And this is a good phrase to demonstrate how I'm hearing in bigger chunks. I hear that it starts on the 5 and is all pentatonic, so I just follow the pattern. That is, I can hear that it's 2 notes up, 3 notes down. You know, I'm not hearing note by note. I'm hearing the starting note and then the pattern. So 5 6 1 6 5 3. Again, this is just, you know, there are many ways to hear this stuff. So right now I'm going to put this on fret 8. And again, there are many ways to play this stuff. I could have just as easily slid up to this shape and play it here, and I still may do that after I learn what comes next, because we've got to do it all anyway. So just in case you're wondering, like, well, why did you immediately go there and not here? You know, usually I'm just playing something that is similar to where I was before. So like I started here, so I'm gonna play here until something forces me to not do that. And then again, like I'm gonna evaluate after this, after we're done everything, and figure out like where the best place to pull it off is. Okay, moving on. Okay, so next we have this typical trumpet or sax like false fingering idea. That means they're playing the same note in 2 different ways. And I like to approximate this on guitar by doing the same thing, same note on 2 different strings. So I might go like, you know, we've heard like that idea a million times too. So what comes after, I would hear, let me play it real quick. So right there, I would probably hear 2 half steps, da da da. Or I might hear, you know, going up to the 5th of my 2 chord. That's fine too. I would probably hear either 2 half steps and down a third. Like that's probably what I would do. But again, you could think of all this as 5 too. That's totally cool. So the whole thing is, let me get it. So I'm jumping down to my 5th. So we've got this up. I'm starting on the 5th, down to the 3rd, and then down to the 5th, 7th, and then resolving to the 3rd of my 5 chord. And again, you could also hear this entirely over the 5 with the appropriate numbers, or even just in the major scale. All valid. All right. Okay, so I'm going to go a little bit faster now. Same start to the pentatonic I hear from before. So starting on 5 up to 1, that means And then after that, we have this nice blue note, the flat 3. And then next we have this classic fragment, flat 3, 2, 1, 6 in some variation. In this case, it is flat 3, 2, 1, 6, 1, 2, 1. And this is my prior knowledge kicking in, essentially shouting, like we know this phrase. We've heard this before. We've heard, in some variation a million times. So again, this one is flat 3, 2, 1, 6, 1, 2, 1. And then I think we jump down to the root. And then up to the 5. And then down to the 4. And then... Okay, this is a really cool lick. Then we're approaching the 3 by half step. Up to the 6. And then 5 down a triad. Down a 6th arpeggio, actually. Okay. Now this is a really interesting moment, because my prior knowledge tells me this is a classic idea based on 6th going like this. And he's just breaking it up, putting a moving line on the bottom, playing like this, like... But when I listen to Wynton, actually, he's playing this. So again, we come back to this idea of new information versus prior knowledge. I already played this idea in some capacity, but this particular execution is new to me, so I'd make a note of that. It's interesting. Okay, that's it. That's the first half. The actual transcribing done. Easy peasy, huh? Now, for a lot of you, I imagine that was very fast, and you can't possibly imagine being able to do all that in your head. And I promise you, if you work at it, you can. I wasn't always able to do this. I did it just like everyone else, little by little, getting better and better each time. The first time we do it, we hear each note individually, and then as we get better, we hear entire phrases. Again, if I did this off camera, that would probably take me like 2 minutes nowadays. So I just ask that you trust me and dedicate a little time to it each time you transcribe. This is a goal that is in reach for you if you're willing to put in the work. All right, now for the second half. So what do we do with these notes? How can we catalog them in a way that we retain them and use them in our playing? Well, before we do anything else, I would look at my transcription and ask myself, am I playing this in the most convenient way? That is, do I have a lot of jumping around that could be mitigated by consolidating? Because my highest note is this A flat and my lowest note is this C, I would probably put this in a position where both notes are comfortable and easily accessible, along with everything in between. So I'd probably play this whole chorus around this 13th fret area. This is not rigid. I don't force this. I'll move if I feel something is better executed elsewhere. It's just a general concept, to avoid playing the first half here and the second half here and then, the rest of it down here, whatever. After we're comfortable performing our material along with the artist, we have to work on extracting ideas. So I'm not going to do this, but I would play that whole chorus with him like a million times, basically, until I feel like I've got it pretty down, So after we do that, we have to work on taking ideas out. And the last thing we want is for this to exist as one giant piece of information that is only usable in its current form. So what I tell my students is to pick maybe 2 licks that you really like and would really like to keep in your playing, and then follow the process that we're about to use. It's an exhaustive process, so we may only do 1 lick today. The number of licks I ask students to do usually correlates with the length of the transcription. So this is only 1 chorus, so using more than 2 licks would basically be doing the whole thing, which is cool. You can do that. At the same time, if you spent all this time transcribing like 5 choruses, it would be a shame to only take 2 ideas from it. Make sense? So I really like this lick right before the end. This approaching the 3rd, up to the 6th, down a 6th arpeggio. Let's say I want to try and keep this lick. The first thing I have my students do with their lick is play it in multiple positions. Where is it down an octave? And where is it up an octave? I can't really go up an octave here. That would be like, the last available fret that I have. But let's say I want to play it down an octave, and again, down an octave is not just slide all the way to like 12 frets down, right? It's play it in a, close to where you are in a different position. So I might play that, let's see, or like that. And I'm pretty exhaustive with this. I'll do it like almost everywhere. So like down an octave, up an octave, same octave, but one position each way. So I'm playing it originally in the E shaped of caged. But where is it in the G shape? Which would be, this right here. So that's interesting. And where is it one shape higher? Which would be the D shape. So that would be, that one's kind of tricky. Because we gotta go one fret out of position. But anyway, again, this depends on the system you use, but saying like I don't use caged is not an excuse to get out of this. You still have to play it in different places, whatever your system is. Next, I usually have them play it up a fifth, but not in the same shape. So, if we're up a fifth playing it in C, I wouldn't just slide here and have them do it. I'd have them do it somewhere else. Play it maybe near the 5th fret area, up a 5th, something like that. And then next do it in like D flat or, by some other interval. So what's the point of doing this? You may think the answer is to play in all keys because we need to play in all keys. And while that's not necessarily incorrect, in my opinion, the greater goal is owning the piece of language. The idea is that the lick exists everywhere on the instrument, and we need to know that when we hear some combination of these notes. We have all these ways to play it, right? Like I said in my fretboard video, if you're playing, down here, we don't want to have to be like, okay, my lick's up here, so I'll play that, and then go back down here, It's just, it interrupts our flow of improvisation. Now, the next thing I would do is play this phrase over every applicable chord in the tune. The great thing about this song is that in its simplest form, it's all major chords, 1, 4, 5. So we can play this idea over every chord. Yeah, I'd probably alter it to, you could do it with the 6 there. But it sounds good with the 7 in there. And then on B flat. Or even on the 1 going, the 7 sounds cool. Going to the 4. So at first, like I just did that, I did it all in the same shape, but then I would probably try to do it all in the same, like in one shape. And then if I wanted to do it in B flat, and then if I wanted to do it in C, see, I'm doing both those little variations of it. Next, I would try to come up with some variations on the lick. And this is tricky because you can't alter it too much or it won't be the lick. We want it to be mostly the same idea but with some embellishments. So what about a chromatic passing note between the 6 and 5? That's cool. What about enclosing the 5? What about starting it early and doing this type of enclosure thing? There are so many possibilities, and this is where we want to be creative. This is how we turn the transcribed phrase into, our own if we so choose. And the last thing I would do is I would try to improvise my own chorus and use this idea where I can. So I'll try to do a combination of the original lick and some variations. So 1, 2, 1. Cool. So, it's fine. It's not Wynton Marsalis, but, it's I'm definitely getting the idea into my playing. And that, my friends, is the basic process to follow for retaining information. The only thing I would maybe add is to maybe try and write it into an etude to really help it stick. Again, we just did one phrase over one chord quality, but you need to be able to do this, or you need to do this to be able to assimilate vocabulary over all different types of chords. You need minor stuff to play, you need dominant stuff, 2/5 lines, etc. But I think it's important to communicate that this is a practice idea. You need to practice this stuff so that it will naturally come out in your improvisation, which is far from immediate. This isn't something I would do on a gig, because when you're improvising, you just want to improvise, not like shove in some predetermined piece of information. And the way to get this to appear naturally in your improv is by doing this work in the practice room. Got it? All right, I hope that paints a pretty good picture of what you need to do. Is this process fun? Not really. I enjoy it nowadays because I'm good at it and it's rewarding, but in the beginning it's painstaking for sure. But if it makes you feel any better, the fact that it's difficult doesn't leave us with an alternative. You can continue to transcribe as you have, and maybe you get better or maybe you don't. Or you can try this out and hopefully see the light. Your choice.